All right, guys, welcome back. Another episode of the No1 Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jake, here to help you guys and hopefully help me with some success stories, some wins, things like that. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Welcome to the No1 Podcast. I am your host, Coach Jake. And let's get into it, man. Yesterday I talked about what I feel are the prerequisites for greatness to do epic things. The first one is getting real with yourself, right? So we were talking about this signature talk that I'm trying to write right now called Wrestling with Greatness, talking about the lessons I learned in entrepreneurship and wrestling in the business of selling grappling. I'm basically a used grappling salesman. I've gotten to be the world's foremost expert on a subject known as catch as catch can. There's people who know more about coaching on the subject than me. There's people that know more about the history of the subject than me. There's people who but what I am saying is that nobody has the level of experience and expertise and production that I have in this space. I've on the coaching, on event creation, on history, all of that. So that talk was talking about that. And the first thing was like, how did I get into that position, me of all people, to be in that position? And I broke it down into what I believe were four things. Let me see if I can remember them. The first was getting real with yourself, having that man in the mirror moment. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that today on another subject. Today I want to talk about the day I decided to stop being poor. But again, you have to have that realization, that rock bottom, that man in the mirror moment. Second is you have to get obsessed. And what I'm saying is there could be positive obsession and negative obsession, right? It's like anything in life. Gun ownership. It could be used to protect yourself against robbers, whether that's robbers in the state or non-state agent criminals. It's good or bad. Depends on the person using it, right? It's like pit bulls. Pit bulls are the most loyal breed. And that's why they get vilified, because if you get some thug jerk who uses it to intimidate or attack people, it's going to listen to the master. But if your pit bull is like a nanny dog and loves your kids, and they're going to be the best dog ever. So it's the context, okay? Healthy obsession. And what I mean is when you're obsessed, you'll stop at nothing. You're obsessed. It becomes single-minded focus, okay? I think that's a better word. Our culture uses the word obsession, and it's got so much baggage. To me, the idea of single-minded focus, this is nothing new. I believe it's magical, like in the real sense of magic, like woo-woo. Like I don't know a better word. Single-minded focus is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's what meditation and Zen is about. Like in particular, Zazen, which I know a thing or two about, what Rinzai style Japanese Zen practice of sitting is focusing on the breath, right? Single-minded focus on the breath. But obsession could be, for me, it was single-minded focus on wrestling. I was telling the story of my roommate. For him, it was skateboarding, and now he runs Thrasher magazine. So, I think that's the second ingredient for massive success is a healthy obsession or single-minded focus. Okay. So the first is getting real and identifying the problem and dealing with the facts. That's maybe rock bottom for some people. What it's been for me many times. 2 is healthy obsession or single-minded focus. 3 is actually taking calculated risks. Don't take like some dumb risk and just, fuck your life up or anything like that. What I'm saying is calculated risks. So, when I was a young man, I decided to move to San Francisco and I was making minimum wage, and it was a very expensive city to pursue my understanding of grappling, right? So that was a calculated risk, very expensive, risky. I took serious losses and whatnot. Hey, what's up, Dwayne? Good to see you, brother. But that would be the second factor. Okay. So number 1, get real. Number 2, get obsessed. Number 3, take risk. Number 4 is you have to be willing to put in, what's up, Brendan, dude? My guy from the UK. We're getting international up in here. You've got to put in tremendous amount of effort, right? So if you want to hit greatness on anything, my recipe, what's worked for me, again, get real about it, like raw, deal with stuff that you don't necessarily want to deal with. 2, single-minded focus, like obsession. 3, you have to take calculated risks, but you have to take risks. Like, that's the deal, man. And 4, massive amounts of action, massive amounts of effort put into it. Boom, you will be great, period. So today I want to talk about the day I decided not to be poor anymore. Okay. I am by no means rich at all. But I think that I've worked myself into a nice place where I'm happy, and I certainly have big targets. I mean, my next immediate target is I want to hit a net worth of $100 million, and I want to be bringing in $50,000 a month in revenue. Those are my targets. I'm transparent. I'm open. That's to me, I believe that again, business, like anything, like government, like anything, there's good people, and then there's bad people in any group, any arbitrary group, right? White, black, gay, straight. I think that it's hard to stereotype people that way, because it's just, anyway, I believe in being an ethical business person. I think that to me, business and entrepreneurship is actually an ethical and moral system. There's a lot of philosophical underpinning that we can go into that a little bit. I don't want to bore you too much. But the day I decided to stop being poor, I had gone to San Francisco to pursue my obsession because I had gotten real, and I took a calculated risk and massive action, moved my ass all the way out of Colorado, Boulder, after I graduated University of Colorado. I was 22, totally inexperienced. Got my ass out to San Francisco so I could work with Carly Gracie, the only guy that I had any, because I was not connected. I'd gone to UFC 2, blew my mind, really helped cement that obsession that I had, and moved out to San Francisco. I had a few other options. I was in film. I had mentioned earlier in yesterday's podcast that I was in film school at the University of Colorado Boulder. I squandered some wonderful opportunities. I had a chance to work with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They were like a couple years ahead of me in the program at CU, and I was just too busy doing drugs and fucking around, being an idiot. But I've always been interested in two things. I was actually over at my dad's house at Easter and looking at these journal articles from when I was a junior in high school. And I was looking at it, and my daughter was humoring me, looking through some of this stuff, because she's 15, she's getting to that age. I was curious what things were like for me and whatnot. Now, unfortunately, I had an atypical experience. I also talked about this ad nauseum yesterday. I had cancer, and I was going through cancer when I was reading this journal. When I was writing this journal as a junior, it was pretty heavy. I posted one of them about my experience being ill. I posted that on my Instagram, so you guys could go. It's like a couple posts back talking about it. It starts with a weird picture of my that I painted of this giant eyeball Jesus. It's like, Mr. What was that Japanese? Mr. Moyaji or Menema? I can't remember. Mr. Eyeball, but I put him on a Jesus body. It's weird. You'll see the picture. I painted it when I was like 19 or 20 or something. Anyway, in that, you scroll through, you can see this article I wrote. Okay. Anyway, point is that I had done all the things I was talking about yesterday on this Wrestling with Greatness talk, that, I had hit kind of a rock bottom, decided I wanted to get obsessed. I got obsessed with martial arts, saw UFC 2, changed my life, took calculated risk and massive action, moved to San Francisco, started training, and continued training over a long period of time. And maybe that should be like a subsection of massive action, is that it's like a commitment over a long period of time. This shit ain't going to just happen. I mean, I've been really building up, say, scientific wrestling, honestly, probably since UFC 2, 1994. I didn't formally launch the company until 2003, and I am still doing it in 2022. So, okay, there's your overnight success story, people. And I still haven't hit my targets. Right now, my big target, like I told you, my personal targets, my income targets, with scientific wrestling right now, my target is to hit 100 affiliate schools. Like, we just this year launched this program, Scientific Wrestler. I'm scrolling it on the YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn right now. Scientificwrestler.com is our affiliate program. My goal is to hit 100 people. I want to get 100 affiliate schools. I've got one. I've got another one in the works. So I got 98 and a half to go. But that's my new target. We just launched it about a month and a half ago. Anyway, the point of all this is that it takes a long period of time. So I had done all this, and I'm in San Francisco, and I'm committed to this. I'm paying $200 a month to go to Carly Gracie's school, getting one time a week. It was kind of a ripoff, but I was passionate, and so it wasn't a ripoff. I paid it. It was worth it to me. On top of that, I'm getting chiropractic, which is like probably another $100 a week, and I'm making minimum wage, dude, in one of the most expensive cities in the world. It was pretty rough. So I was working at a used bookstore. I mentioned this yesterday in the podcast, that one of the things that I did, instead of like trying to make money, which, I never really even had anybody teach me that idea, like that it was possible. My parents were very blue collar. I came up pretty ignorant about a lot of things. And so I was like, I'm going to go work where I can get a discount on shit I like. Instead of working somewhere where I make more money, I can buy shit at full price. So I was working in movie theaters, bookstores, video stores back then. La Video. It might still exist in San Francisco. Green Apple Books is the one used bookstore. I know they're still around. Fantastic. Best used bookstore in San Francisco, in my opinion. I worked there for a number of years. I'm making minimum wage, suffering. Like, my one treat that I could give myself during these days was that across the street from Green Apple was this Chinese food place, and they had a lunch special, $2, and you could get like, a scoop of whatever, kung pao chicken or whatever. And that was, to me, my big treat, a $2 fucking lunch special when I was working at that job during lunch hour. They gave you a half hour for break. Okay, I am dirt poor, dude, dirt poor. Like, I'm always borrowing money from people. It was just awful. I go across the street. I get my fucking kung pao chicken. I rock back to the fucking the room where the workroom where I can wolf down my lunch. And I was just so poor, and I was just eating it. I don't know what my deal was. I was satisfied. I was kind of just living, doing jiu-jitsu and skateboarding around San Francisco and having this good time. But it wasn't really getting ahead or anything. And I'm wolfing this thing. I got to eat this food, and I got to get back to putting books away and shit. And I get about halfway through, and I look in the fucking box, and it is full of cockroach parts, like abdomens and legs and antenna and heads, and I'm just sitting there looking at it, and this is how poor I was. And this was my rock bottom. This is the moment I decided I was no longer going to be poor. I looked in that fucking little white Chinese paper box, and I was so hungry, and it was my treat, and I didn't have any. I had $2, man. That was my splurge, dude. I took my fucking chopsticks, and I pulled out as many of the dead body parts as I could, and fucking chowed down the rest of it and went back to work. And I'm gonna be real, man. I was really grossed out with myself. I was pretty, I was pretty disgusted with that afterwards. I was like, God damn, dude, you are living raw, man. That is no good. So I decided that day, I was like, fuck this shit. I am not going to be eating some sketchy ass cockroach parts anymore. Like I got to change what I'm doing because that is no bueno. So at that point, I got together a plan. I had I talked about yesterday the influence of my college roommates. They were they came from a whole different class of people. I was the product of like a mixed race marriage of very blue collar people that nobody had a college degree. Latchkey kid, fucked up from cancer, just a total disaster. And I moved in with these guys. And like I said, the one roommate, Michael, who's very successful these days, was absolutely obsessed with skateboarding and Thrasher magazine. Like he was a savant. You could ask him, there'd be stacks. He had stacks and stacks everywhere in the house. And you'd be like, okay, episode or issue 7 or what, the September issue of 1983. I don't even know. I'm just making this up. And page 7. And he'd tell you what was on it. That's how obsessed he was, right? Well, I had another roommate who was, Drew. What's up, Drew? Good to see you, man. He says, no such thing as an overnight success. The only people who use the phrase overnight success are the people unwilling to make the sacrifices or effort necessary to succeed. Yeah, or they just don't have a fucking clue. They just don't realize how fucking hard shit can be. Anyway, I had this other college roommate. Thank you for that, Drew. Appreciate the comment. Guys, this isn't like my old talk radio show on AM 630 K Talk in Utah, which was epic, dude. 3 years, third oldest talk radio station on the country. Interviewed fantastic. I don't have that same situation. This is like me in my fucking office. With technology, okay? I got Instagram, I got YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then I'm going out on Spotify on my podcast and Apple Music and all the other podcasting platforms. So I'm getting reach. But anyway, I had this other roommate. And again, super, super successful. Okay. Now, the guy's a freaking brain surgeon, literally like a neurosurgeon. His name's Than. And he was super influential on me as well because, coming up, ghetto, and not really knowing anything, I'm all arguing like for Marxism and shit. I was totally a coffee shop intellectual. Like I had no real training, just listening to like the public school shit, you know what I mean? And I was like a coffee shop intellectual. And I thought Marxism was the thing. Okay. I'm like 18, 19 years old. And I started getting in debates with this roommate of mine, Than. And dude, motherfucker I was getting so pissed because he just would beat me all the time. And I just was like, oh my God. And what I didn't realize is that it wasn't that he was beating me. It was that he was right. Like arguing with somebody that gravity don't exist. Like I can argue that gravity exists. I mean, I don't know exactly what the fuck it is, but like if you walk off a cliff, you're going to die. Like, I mean, that's just being right. It doesn't have anything to do with ego or winning or being, beating or losing or winning. He was right. And eventually arguing with him enough and him being cool and patient enough and it probably just fucking toying with me, I eventually started understanding what his arguments were and why. And this was my first exposure to the ideas of liberty, of liberation. I mean, I just wrote a book, Liberation. This has probably got to be my like 15th book, by the way. And we'll talk about that someday. And I talk about actually quite a bit in here about the power of words. I did end up, I dropped being a filmmaker and became an English major. One, because I had done an internship and I was working on set with this guy and he was like, dude, why are you a film major? You don't need to get a degree in film to work in film. So I was like, oh shit. So I thought I would address a weakness of mine, and that was writing. And I thought, well, if I want to be a complete auteur, a director, then I was going to need to learn how to write as well. So I became an English major. But I really stumbled on the power of words, and it, fucking now I'm like the author of 15 books, a couple of them bestsellers, which is like absolutely nuts to me. This roommate would argue with me, fan, and eventually I figured out, man, like liberty, freedom, liberation, what I like to call consensualism. Okay? This idea that the highest moral and ethical value is consent and consensualism. And that's what freedom really means, right? Is that in the political sense. I mean, there's like spiritual freedom and all these other, I'm not talking that. I'm talking plain old liberty, freedom, political freedom. The idea that you're free from other people and what, like free speech and freedom to assemble and freedom of movement and freedom to do business and all that kind of stuff, as long as you're not harming somebody, because that would go against consent. Same with defrauding somebody. If you lie to somebody or take advantage of. So this is where, for me, the foundations, I'm bringing it all full circle, don't worry, where I believe that business and entrepreneurship in particular, but business and ethical business is a moral system, right? Because it operates off of what Grant Cardone calls the winner's exchange, but in mathematics and mathematical game theory, it's known as a positive sum game, right? Like you come up to me, you're like, dude, fucking sick hat. I'm like, cool, man. Yeah, I love it. And he's like, dude, I'll give you $100 for it. I'm like, shit, my hat's worth $100 to him. So my hat's worth more than the $100 to him. And if I believe that his $100 is worth more than the hat, we trade, we both walk away win-win, right? That's a perfect scenario. That's awesome. To me, that's the definition of business. Now, different people, especially fucking Marxist, communist, socialists, they're all going to have these other definitions. I'm not going to debate definitions right now. But, this is why, just a tip, when you get into a debate with somebody, like when you do forensics in high school or you do debate club, you always define your terms. This is something that is missing in modern discourse. People talk right past each other because, again, the power of words, but people don't get on common ground, right? Did you know that okay, so let's get into words for a second. I swear I'll get back to poverty and how I got out of it. But the word war, bad, right? We can all agree war is bad. I mean, unless you're making money from it. But like ethically, war is bad. That comes from the root, a Proto-Germanic word named wera, W-E-R-R-A. That's where the etymology, I love etymology. It's the history and meaning of words. Wera means confusion. So this is where all politics is fucked up. Somebody says freedom and it has 10 different meanings. They need to get on the same page in terms of so think about this. A euphemism for peace, good thing, right? Is coming to terms. Coming to terms. To agreement on the meaning of a term, a word. Right? So language is super important. Anyway, I had always, like, since these debates with my college roommate, while I was still in Boulder and still in Colorado, believed in this moral and ethical system of business. And that's why when I moved to San Francisco, I was very serious about making it on my own, but I was not plugged in. I was not connected. It was the same thing with wrestling. That's why I never like grappling. I wanted to do the stuff I saw in UFC, but I was not connected. I didn't know anybody. Hey, Dwayne, thanks for stopping by, bro. I wasn't connected. I didn't really know anybody. And so I just did the best I could. And that's what I was doing with making money. Well, that day, man, I'm looking in that white box and I'm like just grossed out. I'm like, God damn, this is no good. I could do better than this. I know I could do better than this. And so, in San Francisco, being a libertarian, I often got confused with being a conservative. Okay. So, and when I was in Utah, being a libertarian, I got confused with being a liberal. Like, it's just how it is if you're a libertarian or an anarchist and just don't believe in either fucking bullshit narrative that they push. While I was there, they all thought I was some crazy conservative stuff because I would read things like Ayn Rand and stuff. I didn't agree with everything she said, but there was a lot that I thought she had some decent arguments. She had some stupid arguments too, but I thought, piecemeal. I didn't like ad hominem throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm looking at the argument, not the person making the argument, which is another thing. Like, understanding informal fallacies and logic is super duper important. Informal fallacies, Google it. It's super important. Anyway, I decided, like, I got to get out of this book place. I'm not going to make money in retail. Now, I had worked my way up within this little retail used bookstore, and I was doing what was known as special orders. So, you go into Barnes & Noble or one of these bookstores, and they don't have it on the shelf. This is especially before Amazon. I was doing this before Amazon. So people would come in, they'd be like, hey, I need this book, but you don't have it. And I was in charge of contacting these publishers and getting the books in for these special orders for clients, right? I stumbled on one day this publisher / distributor. Again, this is before Amazon. Amazon destroyed all these companies, by the way, called Laissez-Faire Books. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know fucking this thing existed. And it was because I was having to do an order for somebody who wanted a Liberty book. And I found it through, I can't remember the name of the computer program back then, but you could look at it and tell you who the publisher was. I found them and I'm looking them up and they were in fucking San Francisco. I was like, oh, I'm done here. I'm done. So I actually hustled down there one day on my day off, introduced myself, got an internship. Right? No, not paid because I wanted to be there. And next thing you know, I got hired. And within 3 months, I was the manager of the shipping department. And this was because I made a decision. I had a rock bottom moment. I was obsessed with not being poor. Now, it's different. Not being poor is different than being wealthy. Okay? But at that point, I had made a decision. Rock bottom, got real with myself. Point 1 from yesterday, Wrestling with Greatness talk. Point 2, I was already obsessed with this moral and ethical system of libertarianism, of liberty, of classical liberalism, which is not to be confused with the meaning has changed. In modern liberalism means progressive, socialist, even communist, but classical liberalism, the traditional liberalism. Anyway, I go in, get the internship, rock it. I become management. Things are going good. Now, what's really weird here, again, cosmic. Again, I'm still not making the kind of money I want. I bumped up. Now I'm managing a shipping department for a bookstore that has a huge list of libertarians all over the world. But I'm still not making great money. Okay, I'm still probably making maybe 25 grand a year. Okay, and in San Francisco, dude, that is barely making it. It was a step up. I only had one job now. I was able to drop the other 4 jobs, which was nice because it's a coordination issue, dude. It was so hard to coordinate everything and take the bus here and there and hours, I'd have to work 3 jobs on one day. And oh man, it was a disaster. And you couldn't keep things straight, especially in my bank teller job. It was really hard because it was like too much to juggle for me at that age. Anyway, I'm at this bookstore, and this bookstore only sells libertarian type of books. And if you know anybody who's a libertarian, they're fucking nerds, dude. And typically they're nerds in economics. That seems to be a real strong thing, and philosophy. Okay, so I'm sitting all day. I'm like, it's a dream, dude. I'm sitting in stacks of all these different authors, books I'd never heard of, never read before, on this subject that I'm like a fucking obsessed nerd about. I have single-minded focus on this. Okay, I'm really into it. So I'm learning about like Mises and Rothbard and Hayek and Robert Nozick, and what's even better is because this was the hub for libertarian authors. They would come in and they would do book signings, and we'd have to deliver books. One time I got to deliver books to Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize winner in economics. Okay, the founder, one of the like epic gods of the Chicago School, Monetary School of Economics. I got to go up to his apartment in San Francisco and meet him and hang out with him. I got to meet, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Fantastic. I got to meet Robert Nozick, go see him talk in Berkeley, all these wonderful things. Gary Becker, another Nobel laureate, amazing things. So these guys keep coming in and I get to meet them. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a nerd. Yes. Hi. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I loved your book, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, one of the guys who keeps coming in, his name's Joe Feurig. He's passed away. So RIP, man, changed my fucking life. I had an undergraduate degree in English. Okay. Which in terms of getting a job, especially back then, useless. I'm talking 95. Completely fucking stupid, right? Basket weaving. I use it now because I write a shit ton of books, but like back then when I needed to make money, it was a bad investment. So I am working in a bookstore because I have an English degree with people who don't have English degrees, mind you. You don't need an English degree to work in a bookstore. It was just, anyway, I'm there. Joe Feurig comes in. He is the dean of the economics program at Golden Gate University. Golden Gate University is the oldest private university in California. It's like a business school in the heart of San Francisco. Again, expensive as real estate, expensive as school, private. Okay, so it was a lot of money. I become friends with Joe, and Joe kind of takes me under his wing. To be honest, he was like a mentor. And he could see how fucking obsessed I was, point 2. And he was like, dude, you're smart enough. You know all these arguments. You know all the authors. You know what you're talking about in economics. It's all you fucking do. You're doing it for free. Why don't you try to make a job out of it? Why don't you apply to grad school, go take the GRE, apply to the school, and let's see what we can do. And I did that. So massive action. I went and I studied and studied and studied. Now, I've always been good at taking tests. That's how I got my leadership scholarship to the University of Colorado, partially. I scored like a 30 on the ACT. I don't know what the equivalent on an SAT. They used to use that to measure IQ. There was an equivalency, and it was like 140 IQ or something. I'm not saying I don't believe in IQ. I'm just saying I'm really good at fucking taking tests, like Scantron bullshit. I mean, I don't know, man. I've always been good at that stuff. And so I did that with the GRE, fucking got in. I didn't have an undergraduate degree in econ, and I'm in a master's. I was in it was a master's science in applied economics. And this is how fucking obsessed and crazy I was. I'm taking it and I'm like, this ain't hard enough. So I actually jumped to a master's science in financial engineering, which Google it. It's financial mathematics, computer programming. I'd done none of this shit. None of it. None. I had zero experience. It was hard. Massive fucking action. Big risk. I dropped 70 grand on that fucking degree. Okay? And I was making no money. I took a massive risk like that. Okay, I'm going all in. Here's all the fucking chips. I'm going all in. $70,000 on the hardest subject in the field in finance at the time. I would argue it still probably is a master's degree in financial engineering. I don't even know if they do doctorates. Anyway, that field was created, and I was in the first class of people to get a graduate degree. I got my degree in 2002. Okay, it's still a relatively new subject. I got it way early because it was created because Wall Street was pulling PhDs in physics and math to do the complicated modeling for these very complex instruments that they were developing, these synthetic derivatives and these models that they were trying to build for these very complicated systems that they had on Wall Street. They could not get enough PhDs from physics and math, and so they started creating this Master of Science in Financial Engineering, and that's what I did and got it. So I've dedicated myself to a couple things in life. One is obviously grappling, like way more obsessed than most anybody else that I know. Very few people are as obsessed and have had the recognition and success as a result. I'm just being real. Like, it's not bragging if it's true. The other one is in business and finance. Okay. So what I was talking about yesterday completely applies across domains. This is something that I believe can be modeled. Okay, not copied. You don't need to do, dude, I'm just telling you, there's so many people that try to do what I've done in wrestling and copy me. And I understand that's cool. Okay. But the irony is that you're never going to be able to out copy me because I'm the producer. You're merely copying. Do you understand? So this is the difference between copying and modeling. You're extrapolating heuristics, rules of thumb that apply across different domains. And so this idea of the 4 principles that I talked about, I'm not going to regurgitate them because I already went over it 10 times in this talk and went over it for like an hour yesterday. Okay. But those 4 principles that I was touching on in my Wrestling with Greatness talk that I'm trying to put together applied just as well to this moment when I wanted to get out of poverty. Okay. So it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's massive work. Okay. Massive work. And so I've dedicated my life to both of those things. Right. So like I was saying, scientificwrestler.com, the people on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn can see it yet. Sorry. Instagram, you're not hooked up, but scientificwrestler.com. Another one is coachingcatch.com. Scientific Wrestler is my affiliate program. Again, my goal is to get 100 affiliate gyms, all practicing this. There's no reason why we shouldn't be as big or bigger than 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, in my opinion. Coaching Catch is our seminar and certification system. It's a distillation of my research and firsthand, again, obsessive amounts of knowledge and work with Billy Robinson, Dick Cardinal, Carl Gotch, some with Gene LaBelle, and trying to create a system that maintains high fidelity to the sport of catch as catch can with an eye towards innovation and maintaining relevancy for the modern grappling game. That's coachingcatch.com. But like I said, it applies across a broad set of domains. And one of those is my hold on just a second. Sorry about that. Is this other effort that I've launched. Now, I've been doing business coaching for 10 years. Okay, over 10 years. I started in 2011. I had this thing called the Lifestyle Boot Camp, and it was basically a very rudimentary system that I've extrapolated over the last 10 years and been doing consulting. And when COVID came and kicked us in the ass, it really kicked us in the ass. Try wrestling with social distancing, and which is bullshit. I'll do a whole fucking thing on the bullshit of COVID. Like, that's some bullshit. If you believe any of that fucking shit, dude, I'm sorry, you're fucking defective. Like, mentally, you're not dealing with a true critical mindset, and you are just taking propaganda at face value, okay? Enough on that. When I want to get fucking banned from Facebook and all that, or get that death threats again, I'll go deep into that, but like, not now. Thales Coaching, THALES coaching.com for people on, let's see, it's backwards. Here we go. Thales Coaching on the other channels could see it. Again, it's the distillation, like I've distilled and tried to create a system for scientific wrestling. Thales Coaching is this system that I perfected, and it's a combination of a few things, right? To me, again, I believe in the power of words, and I believe in writing a book. This is one of the most powerful things you can do. If you've ever thought about doing it, you should do it, okay? You don't have to come with me and do it. There's a million people doing it. They can teach you how to do it. I'll teach you how to do it, and I'll teach you how to do it and end up in a situation like I actually call it authority coaching. Maybe I'll put a banner up so people can see that on LinkedIn. And authority-coaching.com. We'll add that for you guys. Take off Thales, add authority-coaching.com because it established you as an authority. But again, look at the root of the word authority, authority. Remember that from Sesame Street? Author. It creates, it's magic, man. I don't know how else to explain it. You're the same person, but the way you're perceived after you've put in the work, it's a lot of work. I've got probably about 3 people right now that I'm coaching on writing their own book, and it's a lot of work, man. But it's powerful. I have a client who is now on the cusp of breaking out. Huge, just landed a huge agent. Probably is going to be on Simon & Schuster or one of the Penguin, one of these big publishing houses. Is in line to probably get her own talk show. And this is a person that comes from like kind of non-normal, a divergent path. She's like a psychic. She's a practicing psychic. And so, dude, it's some crazy stuff, the power of writing your own book. So, but that's what I do with Thales. I help people become free. Okay. Because I don't think you're going to find freedom. I've tried it, man. I ran for fucking US Congress. Okay. Like I've tried it. I do these things. I get crazy and then I go do them. And I touch that hot stove and I'm like, woo, like politics is trash. I'll never do anything in politics again. Such trash. In fact, it's depressing. That's why I quit my last radio show, because it was mostly political. And I had authors on. I had a lot of authors. But it was depressing. Politics is trash. I will never do anything with that again. That's not the way to help liberate people. To me, liberation, it's the whole name of this book, liberation, liberty and responsibility are 2 sides of the same coin, indivisible. In fact, I think they're synonymous. If you want to call yourself a libertarian, you might as well just call yourself a responsibilitarian. You're taking complete responsibility for yourself. And I think that's a very important thing to do if you're going to be successful, is take responsibility. That to me is step 1 of that framework we were talking about for greatness, right? Get real. Get real. Nobody's coming to fucking save you. They're not. There's no government program that's going to help you. In fact, what it's going to do is it's going to enslave you. It's going to trap you. Comfort is a fucking myth, and it is the path to slavery. These are truths, man. So you have to take massive responsibility for your life. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on, but that was, again, off of that framework, the 4 things that I mentioned in that talk yesterday, and I mentioned a lot at the beginning of this talk today. You can model them out to other fields of endeavor. Okay? So, I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I'm trying to make this a regular thing. I know I'm jumping an hour. Usually it's going to be at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. So what is that? Like 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. I am going to try, but this is boring and mundane, but I got to go get my dog a haircut. My wife booked it, and then she flew out of town. And she's like, oh, hey, you got to go get the dog cut. And I was like, oh, shit. So I'm going to try to keep it the same time. The good news is you can always, on social media, at the end of the day, see the stream, watch it, on whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or on the podcast. If you're listening in on the podcast, you can listen to it anytime, right? So I hope this was good for you guys. It's good for me. So, my whole thing is I'm just here to help you. Like, that is what I want to do with my life, is I want to help people. I just got weird ways of doing it. I'm not going the Mother Teresa route. I ain't going the political route. I'm going to try to make you a fuck ton of money, or I'm going to teach you, some wrestling. Because I think wrestling is the greatest thing for personal development. The lessons you learn, it's a single person sport. I mean, yeah, you can have a team, like duels and shit like that, but it's you and some other person on the mat. It's whether you can't blame like a football or basketball, or baseball, somebody else, or soccer. You lose, it's on you, and you need to learn from that. I love wrestling. So, guys, I appreciate you. I will be here every weekday. I'm going to take Saturdays and Sundays off, but I'm going to do my best to be here every day. Drew, what's up, man? Absolute honesty. I try, man. I mean, we all delude ourselves, and there's parts of ourselves that we don't like to fucking think about or, make up our own stories. But again, that's part of that getting real. And I've done it so many fucking times. I mean, dude, I'm very real. My wife and my kids will tell you, unfortunately. Sometimes it's embarrassing, I guess. But, I'll tell you, one of the other things I was obsessed with, and this is why my attitude is like this, despite all, no sport is more honest than wrestling. Fucking truth. Dude, the mat, that's Sakuraba, right? The mat is truth. I'm going to post that today, actually. It was a great meme. The mat is truth. And it's the same thing with the market, right? Like, I believe that the market is truth as well. This is why I think there's so many successful people that come out in the sport of wrestling, because it's very hard. You know what I mean? You have to face that man in the mirror every day. You have to be obsessed with it, more obsessed than the other guy. You have to take risks, do crazy shit, and you got to work your ass off. That's wrestling as well, right? So it's not just entrepreneurial ventures. It's sports. I think it's spirituality. It's personal relationships. I mean, I've been married 16 years now to a beautiful woman, and she's my business partner, and we have a software company. It's hers, but I've been helping her for 16 years as interim CFO and chief business development officer. But I think that formula applies pretty much across the board. So, guys, if you have any questions, you have any concerns, if I can help you with the things that I'm good at, helping you not be poor and making money and getting wealth and being free, or anything having to do with martial arts, especially with regards to grappling and very specifically catch as catch can, I am here, man. That's what I do. That's how I can help. That's what I love. And if you're into it, which I'm guessing, especially some of you guys that have been sitting in here the whole podcast listening, hit me up, man. I'll help you out. It's how I put food on the table for my family. I love it. I've been doing it for a long time. I have a lot of proven experience and a lot of fucking fantastic testimonials. So I thank all of you guys, because I couldn't do it. This is one of the other things, business and wrestling are very fucking humbling. I mean, I think this goes to what Drew said in the comments, that no sport is more honest, but the market's very honest too. You could think you have a great fucking idea and nobody buys it. That's happened to me. So maybe what we'll talk about tomorrow is I will talk about some of the stupid failures I've had in business, because it's easy for me to talk about the things that I've blown up, right? Like Scientific Wrestling, the Mace Bell. Fuck, look at that thing. That's in 24-hour fitness now. I walked into a 24-hour fitness like a month ago, or it was like a year ago, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, to one of those salespeople. I'm like, I invented that. They're like, yeah, you invented that. I'm like, I did, motherfucker. I totally invented that. Anyway, hold on just a second. We got some comments here that I've totally been fucking ignoring. I'm so sorry. Hey, what's up, Chris Spalding, dude? Sorry, man. I fucking had the wrong thing. What's up, Cameron? Oh, yeah. I'll get on the COVID thing. Day one, dude, I was like, something's rotten in Denmark on this shit. It's totally fucking bullshit. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Tomorrow, if I don't remember, I'll try to remember. I'll jot it down. I'll try to talk about some of the failures that I've had, especially in entrepreneurship, because I think that might be the most relevant to people right now. I mean, I can tell you about failures in wrestling as well, but there's a very small subset of people that want to hear about my fucking failures in wrestling. But I think there's a lot to be learned. If you want to hear that, come to coachingcatch.com or something. I'll be happy to show you how I learned some cool tricks by failing. But with regards to business, we'll talk about some of the harebrained ideas I had that didn't catch on, that weren't a Mace Bell, that weren't Scientific Wrestling, that I co-founded the first reverse mortgage consultancy in this space, because I had built out the first valuation model for reverse mortgage servicing rights while I was working for a large mortgage bank. Very successful going to this day. Shit, I started the Colorado Zen Society at the University of Colorado Boulder, I think in 92, still going today. So I've had all these successes. This company that my wife and I work with, Game Master, blowing it up over the years. My own consultancy, Thales, and we'll talk about Thales too. I want to see, and everybody's like, "How do you say that? Thales?" I'm like, "No, it ain't like how Mike Tyson says sales. It's Thales." And I'm sorry, I know it's like most people pronounce it. And I don't get down on anybody that doesn't know how to. That reads. You know, you're reading and you've never heard the word before. I never get down on anybody, but it's Thales is how it's typically pronounced. The consensus on people who follow that kind of shit. Some people in Europe call it Talus, which I think is cool. Talus sounds like Talon, but most people understand it as Thales. You can Google him. He's a fascinating dude. But I want to talk about why I named my company after him, because it has a lot to do with what we're talking about. And really about the power of the mind. So I appreciate you guys hanging out this long. We will talk tomorrow. And yeah, man, peace out. I appreciate you guys. Talk then. Oh, Chris, you still there? Where is my hat? Oh, you want one of those hats, dude. You're gonna have to hit some sales targets, homie. Hit some sales targets. I'll get you 2 hats. But you let's do it, man. Let's make the most of you being full time. All right.